and link West India's outreach in near neighborhood can secure long-term energy and strategic requirements of the country. And to talk about it, we have Ashok Sajjanhar with us, former senior diplomat. Welcome, sir. If I could ask you, how would you look at Prime Minister Modi's outreach? He's heading to 5 Central Asian countries and, of course, the BRICS and SCO summits in Russia. That's interacting with a lot of heads of government as well. In terms of pursuing India's interests, be it strategic, economic, or to a large extent here, energy comes into focus.
Absolutely. I will term this visit truly as a historical visit, and I think it has the potential and the capacity of being transformational in nature in terms of taking our relations with the Central Asian countries to new heights. Because this is a region which is very important for us in terms of our security, for strategic considerations, energy needs, meeting our energy requirements, for connectivity, trade and economic cooperation. And unfortunately, this region has been quite neglected.
Been off the radar.
Off the radar completely over the last 24 odd years since these countries became independent. And I'm delighted that the Prime Minister has taken this initiative to go to all these 5 countries, because there is no Prime Minister earlier who has traveled to all the 5 countries together.
Yes.
We had Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, who immediately after these countries became independent in 91, he traveled to 2 other countries in 93 and 2 other countries in 95.
Okay.
But last 10-15 years, this region has been completely neglected.
And this region has become of critical importance as far as you mentioned security first. Why do you say that, and what can really be done about the situation that is, of course, linking the troubles here with the ones that are taking place in Middle East and Africa?
Not only Middle East and Africa. I think if you look at what is happening in Afghanistan.
In Europe as well.
Yeah, Europe also, absolutely. You know, what we have seen in Tunisia, what we've seen in Kuwait and France very, very recently in terms of the terrorist attacks. And that means that ISIS is spreading its wings, and ISIS has become very prominent and pronounced in terms of its presence in Tajikistan, in Kyrgyzstan, in North Afghanistan also. There are young men and women who are going away from there to join ISIS. In Iraq and Syria, and as you know, ISIS has taken control over large swathes of territory in that region.
Right.
But you know, not going to Europe, just looking at Afghanistan, and as the withdrawal of forces, NATO forces, and also the US forces, that sort of happens, then, or whether it is Taliban or Al Qaeda or the other local terrorist forces like the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, like Hizb ut-Tahrir, they are all waiting in the wings, and they will start coming up. And all these countries, particularly Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, they are very, very vulnerable.
Because they share borders with Afghanistan.
They not only share borders, I think the economies are rather fragile, and the security systems are not very well entrenched. So I think security is a major issue, and of course we need to have a regular dialogue.
And is that something that will also come up in the BRICS and SCO summits? Because this would be a huge concern for these countries as well, and these countries are in a position to help these countries, bring them in the ambit of even not immediately, but perhaps in the medium term or long term, even in the ambit of the New Development Bank.
Yeah, not so much in the context of BRICS, but definitely in the context of SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, because as you know, it started off some years ago as a security organization, but it has expanded its range and of activities to also include economy, and also they have peace exercises and so on and so forth. And I think as NATO withdraws from here, SCO would get more actively involved in maintaining peace and security in Afghanistan. And I think one of the big takeaways...
And we're looking to become a full-time member of the SCO
Yes,
as well.
I was coming to that India, hopefully we have put in our application for membership of the SCO last year, and I'm very hopeful that India will become a member, and then we'll be able to play.
Yes, the foreign ministers of SCO countries have already approved that.
That's right, in Dushanbe they have already approved this. But then of course you can't say, you know, a deal is done till a deal is really done. Yes,
of course, one has to keep one's fingers crossed.
Indeed.
But Another aspect that was emphasized at the briefing that took place at the MEA today was that connectivity is a huge issue, which is why our ties have not really blossomed to the extent that they should have. Only $1.6 billion in consolidated trade with these countries. Now, how big an impediment is connectivity, and what can be done about it in the short term, if it's possible?
It's a huge impediment, and that is the reason why our trade and economic ties have not reached the potential that exists and that they could have. But I think over the last several years there have been a number of new initiatives that have been taken, and I'll just mention two of them. One is the development and the upgradation of the Chabahar port,
yes,
and that is being done, and the Indian government right now has has allocated about 85 million to 100 million US dollars for upgradation of that airport, of that seaport, and then connectivity from there to Afghanistan, the Zaranj-Dilaram road that has been constructed by India, circular road, and then going on to Central Asia. Because through Pakistan does not permit us to use its territory to access Central Asia. The other initiative is what is known as the International North-South Transport Corridor, and in that the railway link from Kazakhstan via Turkmenistan to Iran, that has become operational since December last year. And that will provide us with the possibility, and that connects it to Bandar Abbas, but then that could be connected to Chabahar also, and that provides us with the possibility to have an access to these. And that is why you would have seen that when recently there were these high-power delegations that had come from Kazakhstan, because Kazakhstan is so rich in minerals, whether it is...
I was coming to that, because that meets our energy needs as well.
Exactly. So we have been importing uranium ore in very significant quantities from Kazakhstan, but we've always had some bit of a problem in terms of what is the route that it will take in coming to. So from there, whether it is uranium ore, it is iron ore, it is coal,
and gas, we're talking about Tapi again?
Yeah, Tapi, of course, that we are not using the North-South Transport Corridor. Tapi is goes from Turkmenistan.
It's a separate pipeline altogether.
That's a separate pipeline. But when you mention about pipeline and when we are talking about Tapi, there is also another proposal to bring oil and gas from Kazakhstan down south and then connected to Tapi. Because as you know, India has a 25% share in the Satpayev oil block. This is the Caspian offshore oil block, and that is in Kazakhstan. And it is expected and hoped that when the Prime Minister is in Astana in Kazakhstan on the 7th and 8th, the first drilling of oil in Satpayev is going to commence. There's the first oil field that India has.
So that's something again to look at. So lots of possibilities to explore as far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned, and we'll be getting you all the updates on that as soon as his tour commences, which is on Monday. He's going to 5 Central Asian countries, like I said, apart from Russia, which is for the BRICS and the SCO summits. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Sajjanhar, for the meanwhile then.
Thank you.
Now moving